Okay, I've got a tough gig tonight. My job is to keep order in the point of order. And this is where I do my kind of regular pitch for the point of order. It's a space that the Fine Arts Division runs. It's not a white cube, even though it looks like that. And we often like to program conversations, discussions. We've had events that may or may not have resembled parties in the past. And we like to keep it open as a project space because it feeds into the undergraduate and postgraduate program of the school, but then extends out to the public as kind of aspect as well. So, having to keep order, I'm going to introduce each of the speakers before they speak. We have Dr. Mduli starting, Dr. Charlene Khan next, then Mr. Mduli Fikeni, and then ending with Mr. Mduli. I thought I might as well take the liberty as being moderator to just open with a couple of things. So I wanted to read a quote. And the quote goes, "Without a free exchange of opinions, life dies out in every public institution, and only bureaucracy remains active." This is Rosa Luxemburg, and it's the epigraph for a book called Grey Areas, which many of you remember came out in 1999. I kind of picked up Grey Areas thinking through some of the ideas that have been on the table the last couple of weeks, and partly recognizing and remembering that race and representation are not new issues in South Africa. In fact, the 1996 Martinson Prize winner at Wits came under some fire, Candice Braitz came under some fire, and the result was Candice Braitz and Brenda Atkinson publishing quite an interesting collection of responses to the debates at the time. And if I can indulge you just a little bit more, there's one more thing I want to read. The responses were varied. Some of them academic, some of them anecdotal, others in the form of poetry. So for the first time in public, I'm going to read a poem, and this is a poem by Tracy Rose. "I can remember a time having been envious of my mother's hair. I too wanted to coax the kinks out of my own. I had none. My cousins had them. Colored hair is strange, a fusion of black and white, but not quite. Not black enough to be shamefully treated, not white enough to be pampered. Status and beauty affected by your crown and glory. My cousin wanted to look like Olivia Newton-John, so I did too. Sitting in front of the chipped enamel chipboard dressing table, grabbed a handful and proceeded to cut a la Olivia. Oh, I was fascinated by the hair improvement mechanics. Hair dryers, hot brushes, hot curlers. Blessed that I was with the Kladahara. Little did I know that later, I would be further blessed with it in abundance, much to my naked embarrassment. It was then at puberty that I knew I was supposed to be a man. All those trouser-wearing days and playing with the boys, and the penis envy which manifested itself at pee time, when my cousin and myself would piss like boys, until she all too suddenly declared it a taboo. We were going to grow peepees, she said. She stopped. I didn't." And that's Tracy Rose. So, I think without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is Dr. Mduli. Same is an artist, arts administrator and writer living in Johannesburg. She has recently completed her PhD in art history at the University of the Witwatersrand, and Same is currently at the Wits Art Museum. Same.
So I wasn't initially in today's program, but given the kind of the debate that the exhibition has sparked and why we're actually gathered here, everyone that's on this panel kind of felt that I should give my response. And I'll read it out. It's very short and sweet. So my response to this forum and the recent debate around the Black Modernism exhibition is twofold. It comes in two folds. The first is my role as a research associate working at the Wits Art Museum, which I will not dwell too much on because I think in the past few months, it's become clear to me what informs the kind of institutional nonsense that black scholars have to experience. I've never been delusional about why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it's the very basis of who I am, and why I decided to pursue a degree, a PhD in history of art. The second is based on my own scholarship as a young black art historian working in South Africa's contemporary creative landscape, and the challenges I've been presented with based on my race, my gender, and the area of academic research interest that I'm interested in. I worked on the Black Modernism exhibition in my capacity as a research associate at the museum, and as explained by my ex-colleague, Bongani Mahlangu, who's here by the way, we both played different roles in putting together the exhibition. His, and I quote, included locating the artworks during the preliminary planning as well as photographing the work to help make final selection of artworks easier, and it translated into the objects came at a later stage. It was to compile the biographies of the artists once the final selection was confirmed. The disclaimer I made to Randi Levikeni, who wrote the article in City Press, was thus to make it absolutely clear that at no point was I involved in the conceptualization, the selection process, or the curatorial process of the exhibition. I felt I needed to make this explicitly clear because as an art scholar, I am fully aware of the sophisticated nature and the complex terrain of the practice and skill of curating. If any of you want to see a show that I did curate, it's sitting at my gallery in Melville called Sosie Sami. And that's curating is not as simplistic as just pulling out words and putting them together and putting together biographies. And so I was very critical of this and understanding what my position then was as a black scholar. What I wish to point out in my responses and the debates that are going to come out of this discussion and in relation to the article is that I wish to draw your attention to the commonalities that both Rwandile and Bongani and Professor Nettleton then drew on in their responses. In terms of this idea of addressing the myth called transformation, because it is a myth, by the way. To me it is. And challenging traditional narratives and imparting new knowledge in South Africa's art historical narrative. The issue of race and personal attacks is thus the least of my concern here. It nullifies the core problems surrounding knowledge economies and institutional power and how it operates. These, I suggest, require far more rigorous engagement that I hope today's discussion will illuminate in various ways. The second aspect which I would like to highlight in my response is directly linked to my own criticality as a young black scholar and a professional in the field who has been working in the field for more than 10 years, by the way. I went to an art school at high school level and went on to do a degree in fine arts, did a master's, and then subsequent to that, a PhD. I've been studying art for more than 15 years of my life. And also as a member of the Black Mark Creative Critical Thought and Reading Group and Writing Group. My position in relation to the exhibition and the issues it evokes is thus directly linked to this kind of scholarship which I have consciously cultivated through particular kinds of exchanges aimed at questioning, agitating, and yet at times being disrupting the institutional mechanisms that have advanced and upheld white privileged and historically white narratives. It is a position that is well aware of the state of the arts that has long gone past the stage of being formally addressed, and therefore unapologetically and unequivocally grounded on the principle of being the change that I want to see. I do not wish to bore you with the detailed story of my academic journey, but I do know that I do not want another black student to experience what I did. My critique of the exhibition will therefore manifest in a different kind of way through my academic work. And yes, this critiquing and engaging will come in different forms of challenging, disrupting, engaging, and including all kinds of views. But also, most importantly, of challenging traditional narratives that are still being upheld. That I sit here in 2016 and still have to justify. But it can only happen, I think, once we are done tearing down the walls of institutional power, designed to alienate and marginalize black scholars from pursuing their intellectual projects, articulating their varied and vast research interests, and reaching their desired dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, the Scholarship Project is a holistic one. Mind, body, and soul. I'll leave it there.